All right, so today we're starting our next session of StartUp MasterClass, and I have with me here today Mrs. Citra Made. She's a training and development manager at the Hard Rock Hotel. She's been working there for 7 years, and before that at Sun Island Bali Hotel Group 2 as well. And Mrs. Made, I think, studied here in Bali at Undisca, and we're here today to learn more about leadership training and development programs within the hospitality context. So maybe I'll turn it over to Mrs. Citra Made for her own introductions.
Thanks so much for inviting me here. So I've been in hospital industry and especially in training and people development for almost 10 years now. Mm-hmm. So develop people is one of my passions. It's kind of like when you are in front of the class, I feel like I'm totally a different person. So yeah, I was starting as a school teacher, basically. I was teaching in the international school, but then I found like I'm curious to improve my career a little bit more. And I started to apply to hotel industries, and it's like boom, and everything just happens. And yeah, I got promotion and stuff, and it's 10 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very exciting history, and I want to also say I echo your passion for presentation and teaching. I also feel like a different person when I get an opportunity to teach. It brings out, I think, the best qualities within my personality. But I'd like to start with this idea, like when you work in training and development, sort of like what is your general purpose? Like you're here in the hotel, you're training and developing people. What would you say is like the why of your work? Why do you do what you do?
Okay, so I think it's a great question to understand the why what we do. At the very beginning, I was actually didn't understand what's meant by the why or the purpose. Those are the things that we do. It's just like you're being pulled to certain directions, pulled by certain interests. And now I realize that I have a purpose, like I'm here to make a shifts and develop peoples and to help them find their purpose as well. So like improve their careers in terms of right now I'm in the development industries, hospital industries, and also like when I throughout the times, my times, the teachings, when I see people like being shifts, it's like give me certain kind of wow. I make people change. Like I see some shifts in the people. So during the times when I'm teaching, I saw people like just being sit in the corners and then not even wanting to say things, and then being until they become being able to be confident to speak in front of the class. And also I met people like they're having kind of it's not trauma, it's like a phobia about being in the group, sitting like that. And then when I speak with them, and it's just being believed in them, and then see them change inside of the class, it gives certain kind of fulfillment for me as the trainers. And then now I realize, oh, this is why I work in especially as a trainers. Right now I'm in hospital industries, which in the very beginning, I didn't even realize what was why until I was in here and see people shifts and see change in people's, and yeah, this is my why.
Perfect.
I'd love to see change in people's. It's give me a kind of fulfillment.
Excellent.
The things that I do. Yeah, it's not just like you do something for money or something like that. It's just usually some change in people's throughout your trainings and throughout your sessions, even just one-on-one sessions with people, it's give kind of fulfillment.
Excellent. And that's actually kind of funny because it reminds me of our mission, right, Kiki? So we're in the business of inspiring delight through hospitality innovations that positively transform people. And I think when we're in the training aspect of what we do, we see the most direct feedback and the result of that training. So kind of going to maybe the history, you've been in the industry for like you said, 10 years, right? Like what sort of skill sets do you want to train the people that are coming in? Like if this were like, let's say school, what grade level are you teaching at? Like what are you teaching, like the bar staff or the wait staff or the like? What exactly are you training to people?
Okay, so I have been working at a company where they don't have any system or curriculum at all,
Okay.
and then moving forward to a company which has really kind of strong systematic system. I was like, whoa, what is it? Things like that. So it's give me kind of views like from company which has no system at all until the company which has very strong systematic trainings. So in relations to your questions, type of trainings that I train to people, I actually train from staff levels until director levels. I have trains. So we have lots of series of trainings. We call this roadmap.
Ah,
So we
okay.
have, yes, we have series of trainings for rank and file levels. We have series of trainings for supervisory levels, for managerial levels, and even for department head levels. Mm-hmm. So when the person just joined our teams, we actually have a long list of individual training plans already. It's stretched until the next 1 year. So when the person first came, they actually see themselves, oh, I have long roads, long careers to step into when they just join a company. So I think this is one good reasons for to keep the retentions, because when people join a company, it's not just like for the salaries. It could be once, but one of the factors also their developments, if they are being developments joining a certain company or not.
Definitely.
So we have this long list of trainings from this joining until the next years, and from supervisories, rank and file managers levels. And also we design our trainings very meticulously designed. It's mean like on the 21st day, what do you need to know? On the next 3 months, what do you need to know? On the next 6 months, what do you need to know?
Understand.
And the next 1 year, what do you need to know? And also, it's not only the skill that they are doing in their departments, but also it's kind of, they also need to know the skill in terms of A&G. They also need to know the skills for inter departments. For example, they are in front of this. Do they need to know some skills in housekeeping?
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
And also, if they are in the receptions, do they need some skills in like wellness or guest relations?
I see.
Things like that. So there's kind of interrelations that we also combine, put into their plans, also intersections that we put into their plans, and also ENG and generals we put into their plans. Then we create this kind of models for the first 21st day, first 3 months, 6 months, till 1 month. So we have code for the first model, ENG interrelated intersections, the next code for the next models for the first 21st month, 3 months, 6 months, until 1 year.
This is really, really good. And I wanted to clarify terminology. You mentioned the word ANG. What does ANG mean?
It's administrator and generals. There are certain SOP or PNPs that everybody needs to know, regardless of your departments or any sections they're in.
I get it. Okay, so like sort of in order to be a citizen at Hard Rock, you need to know these general things, and then you need specialized.
Yes.
Okay, I get it.
Exactly.
Wow. Now, I'm kind of curious. You mentioned yourself that there was a roadmap for this progression in the training. And one of the things I find that is difficult, because we also have a similar situation. So we manage like a large group of properties, and we need to train the staff to use like new software or to do COVID-safe cleaning or these other programs. So the hard part I find, and I think you mentioned it, is how do you know the training actually worked, right? Like what is it that, I mean, because I understand training can be very activity oriented, right? You can do a lot of activity, but then later on, when the person goes out, they're not using any of the things that you taught them, right? And it can be so frustrating. So then, like, do you have a way of tying the training together with a certain result that you'd like to see? And how do you monitor the effectiveness of the training to the result that you want to see?
Yes, I totally understand this question. So when you train people in the classrooms and then they go back to their workplace, whether they do it or not.
Right.
So
They just do their old habit again, right? I mean, it's like, yeah, that's
right,
nice. That's like, it's like watching a movie, right? Like,
right, okay. We have what we call as transfer of learning.
okay,
So when you learn in the classrooms, it's going to be totally different when they do it in the workplace.
okay,
Now in the classroom, they can do it in certain states, certain standards.
okay.
Now when they go back to their working space, whether they can do it, it's a certain standards and the same speeds, you can never tell. So that's why we have this called as transfer of learnings. This under me, we have around almost hundreds of trainers.
You have hundreds of trainers.
92, almost 100, I said. 92.
How many people work at Hard Rock?
Okay, so before COVID, we have almost 700 staff. We have almost 100 of trainees. We have daily workers. We have outsourcing. So it's actually a huge operations.
That is huge. That's 12% of your population is trainers. Wow.
Yeah, and we also have 1,000, almost 500 SOP, not plus PMP, plus working instructions. So it's mainly the amount of people, amount of standards. You need really strong system to hold this together.
You need a system just to keep the trainers in check. Wow, it's like, wow. Okay, that they would invest so much in this. Okay, I have a tangential question, but please continue. I have a yeah.
Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty excited to share.
Okay, sure.
Yes, we have this kind of, we call this a transfer of learning. So we have the documents. So even we plan the trainings, we not only plan the dates, participants, or the name of trainings. Before that, we do kind of training analysis, but we also plan the day of observations. So it's
good. Okay, I get it.
When they go to the classrooms, after that, there will be persons observe them on certain days based on the what we call as training plan, action plans. We have this. Yeah, we plan this 1 year in ahead, 3 months in ahead. So we not only plan the training dates, but we also plan observations.
Yep.
And what to observe. We also have checklists. For me, I observe my trainers, I have checklists. And I have the dates after they pass my training class when I will observe them to ensure this. And also, it's not only observe, but you also need to report what you observe based on this checklist.
Okay.
So whether they follow the standards or they can be able to do as according to the classrooms. So then we from that we can design what we do next. Whether this person need more support trainings, more coachings, or any other resources that we can support this person's after the trainings.
Understood.
So there's also certain kind of reports. From all those almost 100 departments trainers, there's a report to me, then I'm going to read that. If I also observe my trainers, I also do certain kind of reports to the department's head, how these trainers, whether do the trainings according to the standard we have, proper standards, the way we run our trainings. We don't just run our training, there is standards for the department head to do the trainings. So there is a way to do that.
That's amazing. Wow. I had no idea that it was so involved. Okay, that's a really good answer too. I think yeah, you do need an observation system at the observation day. I have a tangential question: is why do you think hotels invest so much in training? That's almost 12% of the population is there to train the other like that's just massive. Is it because?
Yes.
Do you anticipate? Is it okay? Is it because you anticipate people turning over so that the training people more?
Questions.
Okay.
I have lots of questions about this. Why do we train so much? My question is, if you don't train, would you care about the problems they're going to bear when they do the things? So, it's not works. We invest our time so that when they go back to the operations, I told you we have 1,500 SOP. So when they go back to operations, they can do it really well so that we don't have to go back and first correct people's, because we don't invest our time right in the beginnings.
Okay.
So it's essentially, you actually spend more time to correct people's than you invest times right in the very beginnings to do proper trainings, then you put them into the operations.
Okay, got it.
So, yeah.
Okay. Can I assume, and is this a safe assumption, that like the millennial lifestyle lends itself to shorter job durations, and so therefore the training must be amplified in order because there's just not enough. Like you take a look at, let's say, our parents' generation, right? And they would probably stay in one hotel and work like you did, right? Like 7, 8, maybe 20 years. But do you find it that like even with training, like people just tend to have a shorter life cycle, and that makes the training component much more important in order for the hotel to be able to carry a certain level of service at 1,500 points? Or like I'm trying to figure it out because to me, I've noticed actually the value of training too as well, right? And I've always felt like, oh my God, I spend a lot of time training people. And then when I really narrow it down, I come to like a core thing. It's like, okay, what we're doing here, is good. We're not a bad company. I think we do things that inspire people. I don't think Hard Rock is either, right? But no matter where I go, I ask people about how often do you work, how long do you usually tend to work on one job? It's usually less than 2 years, right? It's generally something like, one, so maybe now different, right? Now with COVID and everything could be a different change. But do you find it that training is a necessity because of the, let's say, the shorter lifespan of a millennial employee, or is that relevant or not relevant?
I personally think it's very much still relevant.
Okay.
Yes, we still do need to train the people, whether they, we train them well, and then we treat them well, so they will stay and value the companies and love to be here. So
okay.
This is one thing, trainings, but we also, there's other factors to let them stay and value this company or not.
Got it.
So for me, the reason that I've been like 7 years in Hard Rock, because I received many values during my time working here.
Okay.
I actually received some over previously, but and then I decided to still end up in Hard Rock. So,
got it.
I think training is pretty much still relevant.
Okay.
Even though they have moved, you still bring values to the peoples.
Of course.
And then it goes to bigger levels. It's not just for this company, and then for the development, maybe for the countries, even if they contribute in other areas. So
I became president, and I got my start at the Hard Rock.
It's never gone to waste. This efforts of training people and develop people. I've never seen it's going to waste.
Never, no. But I'm just thinking, wow, this is such a massive commitment to training. Like, I would imagine, like, let's say, for example, if there was, let's say, a steady population, right? Let's say 700 people, and they're all there. Then is this most of this training to develop more advanced skills, or is most of this training like basic skills? Are you looking to like teaching people how to like serve a drink and fold a bed, or is it teaching people how to be like a general manager or like a leadership position?
Okay, so it's when we do training, it's not about whether we train skill or what. It's always about needs. So when we first,
okay, totally.
It's never about hours. We reach certain hours. It's never about skill or not. It's always about needs. Mm-hmm. So Yeah. For example, a new person's coming, of course, we need to train them all the basic skills, like do the things, because our standard might be different from the previous work they work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
then we need to do this kind of basic skill trainings. But we also have different levels of analysis,
Mm-hmm.
from individual levels, from department levels, from institutional levels.
Mm-hmm.
So then it's going to involve different trainings from these different levels of analysis.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
it's
It's not linear. There's like different needs at different stages in their career.
yeah. So it's also at different levels, whether it's individuals or needs of departments or needs of the properties.
Okay.
So we did different levels of analysis in each levels. And
Understood.
also, of course, we also have successions plan. If we plan to do, going to like kind of promote these persons into certain positions or certain levels, then we're going to develop different levels of trainings. We also have this, what we call a successions plan.
Of
Because
course.
we want to, yeah.
Get people ready to be promoted.
Yeah, so they can say in 2 years, I will be, for example, as a managers. In 4 years, I will be managers. So we're going to follow these succession plans and also plan your individual training plans.
Excellent. You know, that's actually pretty interesting to me, which is the other aspect of training. We were watching The Karate Kid yesterday. And so there's a scene where Mr. Miyagi, he decides how to train his student. And what I've noticed is that, like, I think what comes before training needs to have commitment, right? So there's no point in, I don't know if you felt like this way, right? If you're training, but if you always feel like you're pushing somebody from behind to motivate them, you just generally don't get the results that's good for everybody. Do you generally have like a pre-qualification, or how do you decide who you want to train for what particular role? Because let's say, for example, this person, they believe they can be a manager, but you know, you look at them and you go, maybe you're not ready, right? Like you don't get along with anybody right now. What makes you think that you'll become a manager? So like in terms of being selected, is there a process that you go through to select the right students and create that right training for that mindset?
Yes, definitely. For that, especially, we do have. For the person who just came, of course, the trainings is going to be the same as per training plans that we prepared, but also there's kind of succession plans, whether you see this person is committed or not, things like that. In our PNP, development plan is not only from management, but it'll also synergy from the individuals and also from the management. So it's not one-way sides. So this is the first PNP from our trainings.
Okay.
It said it's once kind of, it's joint efforts. It's a synergy between the individuals and the management. So it's not like when you say it just we push them, things like that. We also have this kind of synergy between the individuals and management. How do we know that? Every year we have what we call as performance management discussions. From here, there will be discussions between individuals and the department's heads about the developments. What is the needs of this person? What is the interest of this person? What is the aspirations of this person? Whether they want to move into the next careers or not. We have this, what we call as performance management discussions that last 3 times a year. So there's the first stage, the review stage, and then the last stage.
Interesting.
This is how we know.
Okay,
This is how we know.
You're consciously thinking about, okay, so it's kind of like a negotiation process on both sides. So the management needs new blood, I guess, and they need recruits, and then you're also looking on the student side for readiness, right? And you're okay.
Yes.
So then basically you're allocating your training wisely, right? You're training the people that have shown interest, and so you never be training somebody who doesn't care, I guess, right?
In the first place, why you even accept people who don't care? So it's in the very beginning, recruitment is very crucial. to select the people that is fits your company cultures.
Right.
So that's the very first stage. So why you even recruit persons doesn't care. So that's even you even ask question. Even you ask me question. Will you train these people who doesn't care? My question will be, why will you even recruit them?
They were good at pretending. They told us this was our idea. Well, actually, that becomes a good question, right? How do you detect the fakers? I guess, right? So, I'll tell you how we do it, and then maybe I would like to hear sort of like your opinion. And you know, like when people apply for a job, they're like everybody would. They definitely show their best side first, right? Maybe they even read a little bit about you, and they're going to show a lot of enthusiasm. So what we do here at Bukit Vista is we make them just like kind of do hard things, right, for the first week that they're here. So they kind of wake up early, they participate in all the meetings, and so it's very intense. And they have to come up with a research idea at the end of their 6 days. And basically what we think is that proves that they care, right? That proves that they really want to be here. Otherwise, they would drop out. But then my question is like I mean, that's pretty time intensive, right? I don't think a company like Hard Rock has time to do that. How do you let's say this, from time to time there must be a few people that got through the screening process, right? And by the time you reach to train them, at what point do you go, wait, I can't train you? Do you ever give up, or do you go like, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to fix you. I'm going to get you motivated and turn you into, I'm going to transform you. Is it like that, or do you have to kind of like budget your energy so that you just go, I can fix the people I can fix, and then for the people I can't, then there's another plan for them somewhere else.
Okay, so that's also a good question. The first time is I was having a student, like, they didn't show up for the assessments.
Right.
The first things that I did was I will approach them. So it was actually surprising. Oh my God, she approached me. She really cared. So that was the first thing. So sometimes people, I just don't care. But the first thing that I did was I approached them. So she even surprised herself. Oh my God, she actually cared about me, things like that. And they did the assessments, and then she actually passed, which is great. So first thing, of course, we need to do certain approach. It's not like I'm going to spend all the rest of my life to improve this person. We also have...
Although we want to, right? Although we want to sometimes, okay.
Yeah, yes, we want to, but remember, it's a two sides.
Yes.
From our first, it's the first PNP that it's from two sides. So also there are certain levels when we feel that this person doesn't even have, I don't remember the terms. And then there will be certain different treatments. We push them already, and then they didn't show improvements and things, and then the next step will be kind of disciplinary actions.
Okay, I see. And I guess, can we share what those disciplinary actions are? Like, is it generally a sequence of steps to offboard somebody, or generally like what is the first level of discipline, and what's the subsequent level of discipline that you generally see works effectively?
Yeah, it's actually sequence.
Okay.
It's also, the first, of course, we kind of coach first, and then and if it's not working, and then it's going to be kind of the warning. 1, 2, 3, and then done.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, here's another thing I'd like to ask. So there's SOPs, and then there's sort of like how would I say? So we generally, I guess the work that we're trying to do here at Bukit Vista is we're trying to do hospitality innovations, right? So we're working on new platforms, we're doing new practices, and part of that is that we spend a lot of our time in uncertainty, meaning that the work that people are doing is oftentimes the very first time they're the first person doing that work. I'll give you an example, like this idea of a community manager, right? So we have all these different property owners, and they have Bukit Vista represent their properties. So the community manager needs to kind of create a standard across all these different properties with different owners, so that our guests experience a consistent level of hospitality. So this is kind of like a new role. This role doesn't really exist. So when we sort of teach people, we realize that we can't really teach them a skill because the skill sort of is so new that there's no way to really even classify the skill yet. So we have to teach them attributes, which means that, like, where do you go when you don't have the right answer, right? Where do you go when you're confused? Then you have to go to your attributes to find that. And I find it kind of difficult to train that way, right? Because this is more like where, I guess this is more like a management training, right? So when you're training managers, you're training them to deal with what's the manager anyway. They're dealing with uncertain situations, right? They're dealing with complex things that maybe are happening for the very first time. So in that particular methodology of training, do you find that there's, or first off, do you encounter that type of training? And second, if you do, what are some ways to sort of guide that type of training where it's more abstract rather than more concrete?
So do you mean like the to teach the attributes to persons, to people?
Yeah. Like, let's say, for example, right? Let's say for example, a housekeeper, right? Let's say you have a housekeeper, but your hotel does an interior design modification every 3 months, right? So you kind of like would rather if you could just teach them good principles, right? Like you say, hey, look, these are the principles you should use when you clean a room. Rather than teaching them, you clean this way, you clean this way, you clean this way, and you clean this way, right? You want to kind of be able to trust that they would use some good judgment to go about their work. Is that part of the scope of training generally, or is that outside the scope of training?
It's actually yeah, it's mostly like, it's what we do is like we need things to be precise. Yeah. So it's mean like yes, it's kind of they also develop the skills to say this is we actually yes, in BAW trainings we develop kind of, if certain things happen, what they need to do. There's kind of things like that.
Right.
The action plans will be different.
I see. Okay.
But, yeah. So if certain the guidance, there is guidance of staff. For example, different of case, then what they need to do, there is a difference of staff that we recommend the people to do, whether they are going to ask the supervisor or how do they speak to the guests regarding that. So different case like that,
okay.
We have different guidance of staff the people can take.
Okay, I get it. So
with different case.
So basically, the workflows are all very concrete, right? Like the training is all like linear. Okay, got it. And what happens then if there's, like, let's say a edge case, right? Like let's say you're training a front office person, and they need to be knowledgeable about when to give a refund back to a guest and when not to. Like, is that generally handled at, let's say, the engagement level, or does that get all the way escalated up to like a manager and then get passed back down again?
Okay, so for this type of training is actually trained by departmental trainers. I personally train the generic training, certain level trainings. But for this, we have what we call as fair BH standards. Like, if there are certain things, what is the possible answer or possible way to answer this type of questions? Right. We have until that levels in our SOPs. So we provide them fair BH standards to respond different questions in each different steps.
I see.
So we prepare, how do we speak to the guest? How is the language that we use to speak to the guest? With different case, we have what we call as fair BH standards.
Verbiage standards. Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So
Things
if they just review that and then they know what to speak to the guest.
okay.
So the way they respond to the guest, the language that they use to the guest, because we also have what we call lingo.
Right.
Drugs, we have lingo. So the way we call guests is different. We don't call them guests. The way we call them rock star.
Oh, right. Like cultural little buzzwords,
Yeah.
right? Like a private language.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there's one thing, and also verbiage language. Of course, if it's from all these verbiage language they find difficult, they can always refer this to their superiors. But first, we provide what we call as verbiage standards or language to respond different things, different questions or different type of questions that might be raised by the guest. And also what if. We also provide them kind of what if situations.
Okay.
So if outside of the standards, us asking for this, we also provide them solutions there. Solutions. So there's kind of verbiage standards. We also provide them what if questions and also the solutions from that.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. And I have questions, which is related to how do you actually conduct the format of your training? Is it generally like slideshow presentation, or is it like some sort of Socratic dialogue? You ask questions and you wait for people to answer them. Like, what have you noticed has been like the most effective way, or let's say for you as a trainer, to get the most done in the least amount of time?
Okay, so this is also a good question. It also depends on the type of trainings.
Okay.
So there are trainings which is information trainings, but there are also training which is skill trainings. So different types of trainings will require different sort of methodologies.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So for information training, of course, we do presentations, we do quizzes, we do tests. For skill trainings, we need to show them first. And then we need to explain while showing, and then need to practice. Skill trainings requires a lot of practice.
Right.
So then they will practice how to do that in the classrooms.
Got it.
And then practice evaluations. After evaluations, then we give feedback. After that, then transfer of learnings happenings after that.
Got it.
It depends on the type of trainings. Will require different types of methodologies.
Understood. And all this training talk kind of brings me back to this sort of fundamental point, which is, are you happy with the like? It seems like you're it's almost like you're a university yourself. You have 100 like lecturers and trainers there, and I mean shouldn't you just kind of have students that are ready, they know how it works. They just maybe require to be paired or shadow a senior for a week, and they'll kind of get it. Do you find that the education system is well preparing students for entering the workforce?
First thing, yes, they prepare them at certain levels.
I see. Okay.
Yes, and then when we go back to the workplace, the thing is we have the standards might be not the same with the university. That's why when our interns works in our properties, we never train like this, and then we learn lots from your properties, and then there is definitely gaps between the universities and the workplace, of course. And yes, there is gaps. That's why I also received some university last time. Their lecturers also want to learn in the properties so that they can prepare the student better, so they know what is the real industry. Because most lecturers, they just learn from the class. They're not really practitioners.
So
last year I received one lecturers actually done internships in our properties because they want to learn how the industry work.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I think they're working to bridge this gap.
Excellent. Okay, and just kind of curiosity. This is more on like, just general HR stuff. As working in hospitality, we often have to work a lot during national holidays and such. Does that is that taken into account? Like, and not in a training aspect, but like in sort of like a hard rock sort of way. How do you deal with the fact that a lot of people will not necessarily be able to, let's say, spend holidays with their family if they work in hospitality? Is that just okay? We accept that as sort of that's just the way things are because you've chosen this industry, or is there sort of a sweet balance point that you found with balancing holidays with hospitality?
Okay, so in terms of trainings, public holiday, I definitely don't do trainings.
Okay.
I will cross that in my calendars. I'm not putting trainings and the public holidays.
Okay.
But of course, some people also have kind of ceremonies at different days outside the public holiday that we have. Mm-hmm. That's why planning is really important. We send calendars like we did planning like 1 year before. We send action plan 3 months in advance. We send calendars 1 month in advance with details of participants. Of course, if they cannot make it, there is kind of we can always communicate that. It's not like you have to attend this. There is kind of communications that they can. Sometimes they just come to me. Sometimes they inform the supervisor, and then they will replace the participants. Or if they come to me, I will inform the supervisors to replace if they can find any replacements. Mm-hmm. If otherwise, if like only 2 persons coming, I'm not going to run that classes. But most of the times, because we really send the calendars in advance, they can really fit with their schedules. If not, then we can make some changes before the training is happening.
Got it. Okay. So I guess training isn't crucial to necessarily it isn't urgent to, let's say, operations, right? Because you're probably not going to be training a person who's just going to be working on the day, right? But I'm kind of curious through the rest of the hard rock, because on public holidays, that's when you get the most amount of guests, right? Like you tend to have big movements of guests during Eid al-Fitr, Eid al-Adha, major ceremonies, and not major ceremonies, but generally, do you see that the hotel balances that well? Or I'm just kind of curious because we don't. We kind of work kind of like all the time, actually, because we're a startup and there's this amount of people as it is already. But also it's not just that, but it's also just the nature of hospitality sort of creates a cycle. I remember this. I joked about joining the hospitality industry one day.
Okay.
And this guy, he was a general manager at the time. He said, well, that means you'll never have a weekend and a holiday for as long as you're in this industry. I said, why? Because that's when you're going to be the most busy, and that's when you'll need to be working. I was like, I never thought about it that way. And he said, basically, when everybody else is at play, you're working because they're consuming restaurants, hotels, whatever. Have you seen in your career like a company that balances that well, or how do they take those sides? It's kind of a chicken and the egg situation, right?
It's actually, you don't really have to choose between like this or that. So we can also incorporate that. For us, once we adopt this kind of 3 kind of values. It's like a relationship with humans, spirits, and also environments.
Yeah.
So it's not separate. It's part of our cultures. Like public holiday, we do ceremony at the hotels, and then guests was curious. I was there. Some of the guests asking lots of questions. So I was explaining this ceremony is this and that.
Interesting.
So
okay, I get it.
So it's not something that you have to, I need to do this, I need to lose this. You can incorporate that, how you synergize that, and being part of it.
That's brilliant!
I always believe kind of holistic approach in doing things. It's like, it's not like it integrates that. It's not like this integrates. Things works better when every part is being integrated well. That's
such a good answer. That's a good answer. I get it. I bring the holiday inside. Okay. That's actually really good. I think that then creates that spirit of celebration, that spirit of that we're commemorating something. And Okay, cool.
Yes.
That's
Thank you.
a decent thing to do. Let me go over to Kiki. Kiki, any questions on your side so far?
Hi, Kiki.
Hello, thank you, sir, for asking then the opportunity. Actually, no further question. I just remember that our previous discussion, sir, about delegation and what's that? A delegator and delegatee, right? If I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's actually a part of our what is that, leadership development. So we have this mentor, and not necessarily mentor actually, but yeah, we have mentors, and then we have what is that, orang yang akan mendapatkan delegasi dari project tertentu. Tadi kita sempat mendiskusikan untuk urusan milestone atau deadline project dan lain-lain itu siapa yang menentukan apakah delegatornya atau seorang yang didelegasikan atau dua-duanya ya gitu sih. Mungkin I'm just gonna ask you in another way, what's your perspective on that?
Okay, so I think Kiki's questions was when you decide goal and some things, it is decided by the delegators, or delegated also get a way to decide the goals or deadline or some things. I think that is what Kiki asking me. Mm-hmm. So yeah, as I think from the beginning I mentioned, like even development plan is not one way size. Like personal management discussion is not one way side. It's actually discussions, but it's not actually like certain things. It's not like the way we delegate things. It's directives, consensus. There are many ways. It's not. It doesn't mean like direct things. It's bad. Consensus is good. Certain things, for example, it's dealing with securities. We need to kind of being more directives to the persons. So I'm not saying, from my perspective, the way you delegate, whether you're being directives or consensus, having two ways, it's not something good or bad. It just depends on the situations. It's something like it's dangerous. You need to be more directives. It's something like goals. I think it's good to being more consensus. It's been like we ask also the one that we delegate about the implements of the goals. So that's how they also have it. They own the goals by themselves. They're being part of the goals creations. So when they're being part of it, and then they own it better. So it's not like we're just telling them what to do, because they're also being part of it. So once again, I'm saying like different ways for different things. I'm not saying being directed is bad. Being consensus is good. It depends on the situations. For the goals itself, I think it's good to anytime, even in professional management discussions, we involve them, as it's become kind of discussions to when they become part of the goal creations, then they kind of own the goals themselves. It's also part of me. I'm part of the goal creations. I was the one who set this goal, so then they have more commitment to reach certain goal like that.
Interesting. Okay, wow, that aligns. Kiki, did that answer your question?
Yeah, pretty much. Especially the words that creating goals, creation. It's like, oh yeah, I got inspired by that.
So, I tend to agree with you, Ms. Citra Made, because I noticed that when we give goals to people, they're not as authentic as if we help people develop their own goals, right? And there's almost less control over what the outcome is. So I resonate with that particular idea. Zooming out of this, like, are there any companies or people that you admire for, let's say, their ability or their consistency or their quality of training that you go, wow, I aspire to be like that. Like, I'm inspired by that. From your perspective.
Yeah, the one that inspired me. I think I love, for me, like, yes, developing people's, for me, it's not just about skills, but also like about mindsets and things like that. So Tony Robbins is one of great persons that, yeah, I read his book, and yeah, this type of persons that really kind of inspire me.
Okay, got it. Any companies in Bali that inspire you?
Company in Bali so far. So I heard good things about Ritz-Carlton.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, I never been working with Marriott because from my friends, their training is mostly online. So.
Oh, wow. They're able to do that. That's amazing. Wait, so they train all their workers online?
From I'm not the insiders. From it's mostly kind of online training. So I think they have good e-learning system. They must have good. We also have e-learning system, but the fact that they do mostly online, they must have a good system.
Excellent.
And I heard good service or business. So it's one company, especially in Iceland, that I heard is good.
Okay, great. Just kind of getting more ideas and such. Okay, that's pretty much it for this side. I'll go ahead and thank you, Mrs. Citra Made, for the discussion, and then I'll stop